Chapter 14, Project Closure. So where are we now? Right here, very end, the end of a project. We'll speak briefly about Agile Project Management International projects next week, but we're going to concentrate this week on project closure. So project closure and the review of the deliverables from the project. So every project is expected to deliver something. Now, when you're closing a project, you're going to look at some wrap-up activities. You're going to conduct a project audit, and you're going to evaluate the performance. Now, for wrap-up activities, we're looking at things like facilities, customers, and vendors, and any kind of reports that are produced. For the audit, you're looking to review the reports. You're doing a retrospective and some lessons learned from the project process. And then in evaluation, you're doing both a self-evaluation as an individual and also evaluating your team. Each one of these deliverables are aspects of this course. The project archives and database is where all this lands. So a company keeps a record of all of its projects and how the people did and how the teams did and what was the outcome of the project. And we put them back on the shelf, if you will, and we keep a record of them. Now, there are several different types of project closures. There's a normal project closure. There's a premature or perpetual project closure. There's a failed potential project. And then there's a project that may have changed priorities. So, as we've seen in this class, you can adjust as you move forward, and you can change what you focus on. Perhaps the outcome of a project is that you decide, okay, this is something we want to pursue. That's kind of normal. Or this is something we're not ready to pursue. That's pretty mature. This is something we need to continue to pursue. That's perpetual. This is something that's not going to work out. Failed project. Or this is something that we're interested in, but we need to take it in a new direction. Change priority. Now, some wrap-up closure activities. The project closure usually includes the following 6 major activities. First, getting delivery acceptance from the customer. Second, shutting down resources and releasing those resources to new uses. Third, reassigning project team members. Fourth, closing accounts and seeing that all bills are paid. Fifth, delivering the project to the customer. And then lastly, creating the final project report. These are all aspects in this class. It's pretty cool, right? We're successfully mimicking what happens in the real world. Now, you may have a wrap-up closure checklist with a list of tasks that are related to, say, your team or your vendors and those outsourced contractors, your customers / end users, what happens with the equipment and facilities, and you say, hey, yeah, we completed this, we have not done this, we need to look at something. It's basically a to-do list at the end of the project. Then we look at project audits. Project audits are used as performance measures and forecast data. So if you were looking at the viability of a new product line or a new service, that's a forecast, right? And we're also assessing how the project itself performed and how we anticipate the outcome of the project performing. Then we examine project success and review why the project was selected. We include in this a reassessment of the project's role of the organization's priorities. We include a check on the organizational culture to ensure it facilitates the type of project being implemented. This can be performed while a project is in process or after a project is completed. Now, the in-process project audits are performed earlier in projects to allow for corrective changes and concentrate on the project process and performance. So we've had some redirections in here. We've had perhaps some, you may have a project shut down and have people moved around. You certainly have scopes of projects narrowed. All of those things are in process while the project is in process, audits and changes. There's also post-project audits. This includes more detail and in-depth than the in-process project audits and emphasizes on improving the management of the future projects. So okay, this is how we executed this project. Here are some things that went well. Here are some things that did not go so well. Let's emphasize the things that go well and find new solutions for the things that did not go well. Now, guidelines for conducting this type of project audit. There are several here. We'll start with 7 of them. There's a little more in the reading. But first, the philosophy must be that the project audit is not a witch hunt. We're not looking to blame people. We're just trying to objectively see how individuals and the team performed. There are comments about individuals and groups participating in the project should be minimized. Now, in this class, I'm needing you to give me some feedback on each individual team member, but in the professional world, unless there's some egregious performance issues, you need to make sure you keep things professional. Audit activities should be sensitive to human emotions and reactions. We're all human. We all have emotions. We all have reactions. We need to be sensitive to those things. The accuracy of the data should be verifiable. If you document something, there should be a data trail to support it. The senior management should announce the support of a project audit. It's something that it needs to be endorsed by leadership. The objective of project audits is not to prosecute, but to learn and conserve valuable organizational resources, time and money, and other resources like facilities and overhead, where and look where mistakes have been made and try to make adjustments to be more efficient in the future. The audit should be completed as quickly as is reasonable. The project audit process has several steps. We're going to stick with the first 3 here. Again, there's so much more material in the reading that obviously this slide presentation, like all the others, have been a 30,000-foot view. You need to make sure that you're doing the reading. So step 1 of the project audit process is the initiation and staffing. Initiation of the audit process depends primarily on the organization and the project size. So if it's a small project, it doesn't take as many people to look at it. If it's a massive project, you're going to need a team to audit it. The outcome must represent an independent outside view of the project, so it's generally completed in a corporate environment by a third party. Step 2, data collection and analysis. Again, this is objective data. Information and data that are gathered to answer questions from both the organizational viewpoint and the project team view. Step 3, reporting. The report attempts to capture the needed changes and lessons learned from a current or finished project. Some common outlines for a project audit report look like this. You'll have like an initial section that has classifications, and it breaks down your project type, the size, the number of staff, the technological, intricacies that are needed, what's the level of technology used. The strategic or support analysis. So what is this strategic for the organization, and what type of support are we going to do here? Secondly, you do an analysis. You do the scope of the project objectives, the quality of those objectives, the cost of those objectives, what's the schedule of those objectives, the summary of risks, and the outcomes achieved. Now, if you see this is a lot of what we've done in this class. And then we stop just short of actual launch. So I can see the outcomes of your plan, but not the outcomes of your execution. Then third, in the audit report, you have some recommendations, some corrective actions, and some technical improvements. How can this be made better? Then we look hard for the lessons learned. We have reminders of our mistakes. And then we do retrospectives and what we've taken away from that. This time, it would be better if we did this. This is exactly what we do this time of year in every course. We actually get feedback on the instructor. You will get feedback on your performance as an individual in your project. Both of us are going to learn from that information. So you need to learn, what are your lessons learned? And then lastly, an appendix with your data and any critical pertinent information. Now, project retrospectives. Retrospectives denote a specific effort at identifying lessons learned on projects. An independent trained facilitator acts as a guide. They lead the project team through an analysis of project activities, kind of like a post-mortem, right? Like everything's over. It uses several questionnaires focusing on the project operations and on how the organization's culture impacted the project success or failure. You visit one-on-one with the project team managers or project team members, rather, getting ahead of myself, and the project manager, and the stakeholders to dive deeper into the cause and effect impacts. This leads to a team retrospective session. So you meet with everybody one-on-one, and then you meet with them as a team. You gather information from both. And then you work with a team, if you're conducting a retrospective, to develop a system to prioritize the information from different recipients to basically get the whole story and be able to double back to the lessons learned. So what's the big picture here? The purposes of all maturity models are to enable organizations, and again, a project is ending, that's its maturity. It enables organizations to assess their progress in implementing the best practices in their industry and to move to improvement. The project maturity model yields a more encompassing look from an organization-wide point of view. The latest version of the project maturity model developed by the Project Management Institute, PMI, is called OPM3. OPM3 is divided into a continuum of growth levels. So again, we're talking about project ending. We have maturity, right? So we're looking at growth over time. You have the initial, you have the repeatable, you have the defined, you have the managed, and you have the optimized. And we're going to show that maturity model in the next slide. So again, level 1, ad hoc, that means temporary project management. Level 2, more formal application of the project management. Things start to take shape, people take on duties. Level 3, institutionalization of project management. This is where the ball's really rolling. You've divvied up responsibilities, everyone knows what they're going to do, and we move it out. Project management system, you become a professional project manager. Each of you have learned what that entails in this course. And then we approach level 5 where we're operating in an optimal sense in terms of our performance and outcomes within the project management system. So you start out, kind of fly by night, kind of just putting it together. You start to build and build and build. Before you know it, you're a professional project management team. This is the part where I get to say, in this class, I've definitely seen you mature. You've gone from, hey, maybe what about this idea, to, okay, let's narrow that scope, to, okay, let's divide up the way we do things, and you guys have become a much more well-oiled machine project, developing a project management system. Now, what about the post-implementation evaluation? The purpose of the project evaluation is to assess how well the project team members, and the project manager performed. The evaluation implies the measurement against specific criteria. You have team evaluation, you have individual team member and project management performance reviews, and individual reviews. So if you think about this in a corporate environment, each and every one of you is an individual employee of a corporation. You've been placed into a team that will be evaluated as a team. How you do your job affects the entire corporation. So you are measured corporately and individually. So let's talk a little bit about that team evaluation. The team evaluation tends to be based on achieving project objectives according to time, cost, and specifications, the scope, as well as the customer and end user satisfaction level with what you've come up with. Remember, you've always got to keep the customer in mind. Less common to assess is how well the team worked together and with others. However, that's extremely important because it directly affects the team's performance. This uses a survey administered by a third party. Let's say it can be a consultant or an outside staff member from the HR department, or can be held anonymously as a survey. This uses a survey, electronically rather. Uses a survey. The team evaluation uses the survey results to assess the development of the team. What went right, what went not so right. Its strengths and weaknesses, and lessons that can be applied from future project work. That then, from the team, boils down to the individual, so that when you're assessed as an individual in your annual review, let's say, you are given some things that went right and some things that did not go so well. A sample team evaluation is feedback survey. Use the scale below. You can see from a disagree to agree. The team shared a sense of common purpose, etc. Respect was shown. All interaction among team members occurred in a comfortable, supportive atmosphere, and then you can rank them. We actually do a bit of a team evaluation in here, where we call it a peer evaluation, where you assess one another. I'm hopeful those come out well. I really beseech you to definitely give honest feedback, both of yourself. You will survey you will examine yourself, self-evaluation, but you also examine your teammates. So please do so honestly. Individual team member and project manager performance review. These performance assessment responsibilities, they're functional organization. It's the individual's area manager. It's a balance matrix, the project manager and the area manager jointly. And the project matrix and project organization is the project manager. So we're looking at this big as a team and then small as individuals. And then obviously within a corporate environment, we'd all have different ranks and measures. And you would have an executive committee, you would have project managers, and then you would have individual project team members. Performance appraisals fulfill two important functions: development and evaluation. For development, this focuses on identifying individual strengths and weaknesses and developing action plans for improving performance. So enhancing the strengths and developing and bringing up the weaknesses into, well, less than weaknesses. The evaluation component, the focus is on assessing how well a person has performed in order to determine a salary or merit adjustments. The multi-rater appraisal, or 360-degree feedback, involves soliciting feedback concerning team members and performance from all their work, and it's the team members' performance from all the people they work with and their effects. I think they mean effects right here, so there's a little edit that the publisher needs there. General tips for conducting a performance review. Begin by asking the individual to evaluate his or her contributions to the project. Avoid drawing comparisons with other team members. Rather, assess the individual in terms of established standards and expectations. Focus the criticism on the specific examples of behavior rather than the individual personally. Be consistent and fair in the treatment of all members. I would say equitable. I don't like the word fair. For the record, fair is the place where pigs go to get ribbons. Unfair is the existence of pediatric cancer. Everything else is just noise. And be sure to treat the review as only one point in the ongoing process. It's not completely conducive. A lot of times I'll see team evaluations and two people just don't like each other and they rate each other poorly, but all the rest of the team rate everybody okay. So sometimes we have to have one-off conversations like that. So you cannot put a complete weighting on the team evaluations. You must make sure you're looking at equitable data points throughout the project. Now again, that is a 30,000-foot view in Chapter 14, but we have reached the project closure. Thanks for listening.